watches are actually made in China, and the reason that replicas often look just as good as the original is that they are made in the same factory.
Watches come in different sizes. A small dial makes you always slimmer, while a large one makes you a stronger arrow. First of all, you need to determine your budget range. The Rolex data address is the best choice for cost effect.
Welcome back to Star Watch. Big love to everyone who's been rocking with us. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button so you never miss the heat we drop. Shenzhen, China. Most people don't even blink when they hear it. But guess what? That city is running the global watch game. Not Switzerland, not some old man in the Alps. Shenzhen. Over 95% of the world's watches, yeah, even luxury ones, come out of there. That's not some wild guess either. That's cold, hard fact the watch industry hopes you never find out. So next time you see someone flashing a $20,000 Rolex or a $36,000 Audemars Piguet, just know there's a real chance that beauty, or at least some key parts, was made in the same Chinese factory that pumps out replicas.
Let me explain what the Swiss companies do to kind of squeeze you out of money. So when you think Swiss made, you're imagining this bespoke factory in Switzerland with mountains in the background, with artisans working really hard to make exquisite timepieces. That's not the case. They make almost every component of most Swiss.
Wild, right? And don't get it twisted. These factories aren't some back alley scams. Nah, they're shiny, massive, high-tech operations. Whole blocks in Shenzhen are built just for watch production. They're rolling out watches like a machine gun on full auto. And sometimes, the only difference between a real watch and a knockoff is just a stamp. People still out here fantasizing about that Swiss craftsman with a magnifying glass building their Rolex by hand. Man, that's just a fairy tale.
Well, it's a little loophole where as long as 60% of the total cost of construction happens in Switzerland, they can call it Swiss made. Almost all of the movement's the thing that makes this thing tick, is done in China. And then they'll take one component that might be a little bit more expensive. Usually it's something like the rotor, the thing that makes it automatically wind. And they'll just slap that on and they'll make sure that
The truth? It's closer to a crowded Chinese assembly line than any cozy Swiss cottage. Oh, and real quick, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. We've got more truth bombs coming your way. Now, let's dig even deeper. See that Swiss made label on your dial? Sounds classy, right? Like a badge of honor. But it's a front. According to Swiss law, only 60% of the value of the watch has to come from Switzerland to slap on that label. Not even 60% of the watch itself, just the value. The rest could be 100% Shenzhen. And when they say value, they're not talking about materials or the grind it takes to make the watch. Nope, they're talking branding, logos, fancy boxes, slick ads, even just snapping the movement into the case once it lands in Switzerland. That's it. Picture this. A Shenzhen factory builds the whole watch, case, bracelet, glass, dial, everything. Then they ship it over. A Swiss tech pops in the movement, wipes it down, seals it up, and boom! It's now Swiss made. That easy. The rest? Smoke and mirrors. This ain't a loophole. It's a secret highway the luxury brands are racing through daily, racking up profits while folks out here paying $6,000 thinking it's handcrafted in a snowy Swiss chalet. Truth is, you're buying a China-built piece dressed up with a Swiss tag, and that's just scratching the surface. Because what came next? Even Rolex couldn't fake the illusion anymore. They had to make a move that rocked the luxury world. Let's talk about it. Rolex, the holy grail of watches, started cutting prices. Yep, Rolex, the brand known for being impossible to get, exclusive, pricey by design, suddenly dropping their prices by up to 20% on hits like the Submariner, GMT Master 2, and Oyster Perpetual. And they didn't shout it out either. No ads, no press blast. These cuts were done silently, slipped in by dealers across certain markets like it was nothing. But the watch crowd? They clocked it instantly. Why? Because Rolex don't do discounts. Ever. So why now? Here's the real tea. A leak straight out of China blew up the whole game. Viral clips showed Rolex-style bezels, cases, and bracelets getting boxed up in bulk and shipped from factories in Longgang. And these weren't those dusty fakes from a flea market. These were high-end builds, nearly identical to the real deal, allegedly made using leftover parts from actual Rolex orders. The timing? Too perfect. These secret price cuts dropped right after the footage started making rounds. Coincidence? No way. This was a panic play, a hush-hush move to control the chaos and keep Rolex's squeaky clean image from crashing down. But here's the thing, it backfired. Bad. The leak exposed what Rolex had been trying to bury for years, that their whole luxury empire is balanced on shaky ground. And now, that ground is crumbling. But wait, it gets wilder. Once folks realized the Swiss perfection was mostly smoke, they didn't just sit back and sip popcorn. Nah, they got bold. Buyers, collectors, even newbies. They started cutting Rolex out of the picture completely. Why pay $10,000 when you now know the truth and can get the same build, same materials, same everything, without the markup? Why drop $10,000 on a Rolex at some fancy boutique when you can get the exact same watch, sometimes made in the same damn factory, for a tiny slice of the price? And no, this ain't going down in sketchy alleys or scammy websites. We're talking private Telegram threads, WeChat groups, locked WhatsApp circles, direct access to the factories themselves. These spots used to move in silence. Now, they're taking orders out in the open, customizing builds and shipping watches that look, feel, and tick just like the real ones. Even the lingo's changed. Nobody says replica anymore. It's all factory edition, OEM release, parallel build, same line production. Sounds legit, 'cause honestly, it kinda is. These watches are made with the same materials, same craftsmanship, same finish. Everything but the final Swiss stamp. That's it. People are waking up. Why pay boutique prices when you can pay $500 and walk away with something that looks like it's worth $20,000? They're skipping the velvet ropes and going straight to the plug. And the quality? Man, it's giving full-on luxury without the luxury tax. But let's be real, this underground empire didn't pop up overnight. It's been cooking for years, low-key in the shadows. That is, until a few brave whistleblowers finally said, nah, this ain't right. That's when it started to get real scandalous. So how did this all stay hush-hush for so long? Simple. Money talks, and the watch industry, it's drowning in it. That cash buys silence across the board. Let's talk media. The big-time fashion magazines and watch publications, they're not exposing Jack. Why? Because they're raking in millions in ads from Rolex, Omega, Cartier, and the whole elite crew. You really think they'll bite the hand that funds them? Never. And it's not just the print world. Watch bloggers, influencers, all of them are in too deep. Brands fly them out to Baselworld, spoil them with exclusive dinners, and gift watches worth tens of thousands. All they gotta do? Smile, post, and stay quiet. Loyalty bought with stainless steel and champagne. So when the truth finally started spilling out, it wasn't from media pros or experts. Nah, it came from the underdogs, YouTubers, TikTokers, anonymous factory workers. Some dropped raw footage from the production lines. Others posted receipts, serial numbers, exact models, millimeter-level copies. And what did the mainstream media do? Nothing. Straight blackout. 'Cause if the world found out their Swiss-made treasures were just polished imports with a pricey label, the whole illusion would crash. Hard. But not everybody stayed quiet. One of the most jaw-dropping revelations came from a former industry insider, someone who lived it, saw it, and paid the price for speaking up. He didn't have a flashy name, but what he exposed, it hit harder than any headline. This guy wasn't a reseller, not some clout-chasing blogger. He worked directly for a major Swiss watch brand, a legit pro, and all it took to get him booted? Asking too many questions. He was restoring vintage pieces from the 1970s, the holy grails for collectors. But every time he cracked one open, things weren't lining up. Supposedly, all Swiss watches had hands, dials, and even bracelets that were clearly Asian-made. And this wasn't new. It had been going on for decades. Then came the movement, the literal heart of the watch. Sometimes it was a top-tier Swiss engine, but other times, just a $5 quartz piece slapped in last minute. Like popping the hood of a Lambo and finding a lawnmower engine. He took pictures, dropped the receipts, went public, and instead of answers, the industry blacklisted him, fired, smeared, silenced. Why? Because he cracked the perfect image. The truth? Swiss luxury brands have been outsourcing key parts for years, not just screws or straps, real components going inside legit, full-price watches. This ain't some TikTok theory. This is deep-rooted, covered-up truth that shattered the fantasy of handcrafted Swiss perfection. What people believed was a sacred craft passed down through generations. Turns out it might have just been a spreadsheet full of supplier invoices. And even after all these bombshells, most folks still haven't heard a word. Why? Because money shields the myth. But now, not everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, and that pressure finally forced Rolex to break character. Keep watching, because this is where the scandal turns into a full-blown collapse. Rolex didn't slash prices because of inventory or some seasonal play. They panicked, and it was all triggered by one thing they couldn't shut down: exposure. That factory footage from Longgang went viral, showing Rolex-style bezels and cases being packed by the thousands, and that's when their polished image started unraveling. Remember, Rolex didn't just sell watches, they sold status, exclusivity, the feeling of being chosen. You don't just buy a Rolex, you earn it. That's the illusion. So when they suddenly started dropping prices, the whole luxury scene went silent. These weren't dusty leftovers, they were models like the Submariner, GMT Master 2, the same ones flooding the replica market. No press release, no public sale, just silent markdowns through hand-picked dealers in select zones. But the watch community, they clocked it instantly. And the scariest part? It wasn't the discount. It was the reason behind it. The China leaks didn't just show fakes, they showed the real stuff. Sapphire glass, bezels, bracelets, actual Rolex parts being built outside Switzerland. Some insiders even claimed these were leftovers from Rolex's own supply chain, sold off and finished without that final branding stamp. That's what made collectors sweat and newbies ask the one question Rolex hates: what am I really paying for? And that question, it flipped the whole game. Once the truth spread, people stopped just watching the drama. They took control. Buyers skipped dealers, ditched wait lists, and went straight to the plug. Shenzhen wasn't just a factory zone anymore. It became the new luxury hookup. And this market, it leveled up quick. Forget cheap knockoffs in plastic bags. These factories started dropping full custom builds. Pick your case size, dial color, bracelet style, even sapphire glass and ceramic bezels. Just like the real thing. Price tag? Not $10,000, more like $500. Sometimes even less. But here's the wildest twist. They didn't even call them fakes anymore. Now it's factory build, B-grade homage, OEM release, parallel line edition. All that luxury flex just without the brand markup and those fancy terms like OEM release or factory build. They weren't made up. A lot of these pieces were built using the exact same machines, sometimes even the same materials as Rolex. Only thing missing? The logo. Whistleblowers dropped even more heat, saying leftover bezels, dials, and cases from actual Rolex production runs were being snatched up and used to build watches on the side. Not trashed, not recycled. Quietly sold. The result? Watches that were nearly identical to what you'd find in a retail box, just without the branding and insane markup. People weren't just saving cash, they were getting closer to the real thing than most Rolex buyers ever would. And the brands, they couldn't stop it. Once the supply chain leaks, you can't patch it with silence. But now let's shift gears. Let's talk money, because the numbers, they don't just tell the story, they expose it. Start with profit margins. Most folks think Rolex is out here operating on tight profits because, heritage, craftsmanship, Swiss tradition. Wrong, not even close. Insiders say that a Rolex priced at $6,000, it might only cost around $1,200 to $1,500 to make. That's it. And that's before Rolex jacks the price up by 5x or more before it ever hits a boutique. Compare that to other luxury brands. UK's Christopher Ward openly marks up their watches 3 times. Omega, around 4x. But Rolex? They're playing a whole different game. And the craziest part? They don't even have to explain themselves. Why? Because on paper, Rolex is a nonprofit. Yep, a nonprofit. No public financials, no accountability. Just sky-high prices hiding behind secrecy. Now stack that up against other major industries. Apple's profit margin? 32%. Microsoft? 38%. Novo Nordisk, the pharma beast behind Ozempic? 39%. Rolex? They're lapping them. So when you drop $15,000 on a Rolex, just know, you're not paying for the watch. You're paying for the dream, the mystery, the hype, and the brand is eating good off that. But here's where it gets even wilder. You're not even buying the product anymore. You're buying the idea of it. Meanwhile, you're stuck wondering what you really paid for. And don't go anywhere, because next, we're breaking down how to actually spot the difference between the real and the replica. Spoiler, some fakes shine just as hard until you zoom in. All right, now let's get into the real guts of it. What's actually inside these so-called fakes? From a distance, they're dead ringers. On your wrist, under soft lighting, or in a quick IG flex, you'd swear it's the real thing. But zoom in, and that's when the truth hits. Let's start with the movement, the heartbeat of the watch. Real luxury timepieces have that buttery smooth, sweeping second hand. Replicas, usually rocking a cheap, no-name quartz that ticks like a busted metronome. Loud, clunky, jumpy, not elegant, not even close. Now the water resistance. A true Rolex can swim, dive, maybe even hit deep sea levels. A fake, it might fog up just from your bathroom steam. Splash damage? That's a death sentence. Materials? Same deal. Authentic watches use solid stainless steel or precious metals. Replicas? Usually built with cheap alloys that scratch if you blink at them. The lume? Barely glows. The weight? Way too light. The polish? Not some Swiss artisan's touch, it's more like machine dipped and rushed off the line. Sure, you can flex a fake in photos, but walk into a room full of real collectors and guess what? They'll spot it in seconds. And once someone gives you that look, the one that says, "Nice try," your confidence tanks. That fake shine starts to feel heavy, cheap, even embarrassing. But here's the thing, even after hearing all of this, people still ask the big one, are luxury watches really worth the price? Let's get into it. After all the factories, the leaks, the insane markups, and high-end replicas, this is the gut punch question. Is it really worth it? And honestly, depends on what you think you're buying. If you believe you're paying for craftsmanship, innovation, Swiss heritage, you might end up feeling played. Not every luxury piece is a masterpiece. Some are just pre-made parts polished up and flipped at 10x markup because of a logo. Brands like Rolex and Omega, they're cashing in on their legacy, not always on cutting-edge design. They know the truth. People don't just pay for the watch, they pay for what it represents. That silent flex, that unspoken status. You walk into a room with a real Rolex, it talks, even if you don't. So yeah, on paper, many of these watches are wildly overpriced. But emotionally, that's a whole different currency. For some folks, owning that symbol, even if the guts came from a warehouse in Shenzhen, is still priceless. And that's the real twist in this entire saga. These brands aren't just selling watches, they're selling dreams. But now, you finally know what's hiding behind the curtain. If this video opened your eyes, smash that like button and subscribe for more truth they don't want you to hear. Drop your thoughts in the comments and we'll catch you on the next one.